I know that we are all becoming experts on the musical piece, Peter and the Wolf. Last week, I hope you had so much fun learning all about the grandfather and the bassoon and making your straw instruments. The ones that I heard you guys made sounded really good. I was really impressed that you were all able to get a sound out of them, and that I'm sorry I missed the parade. I wish I could have seen that, but the ones I saw looked fantastic, and I'm really proud of you guys. This week, we are going to do a very, very quick review of all of the instruments and all of the characters that we've talked about so far. And then we're going to learn about the last two characters that are in Peter and the Wolf, okay? I know some of you have been anxiously awaiting the arrival of the wolf, and we will get there today, I promise. Before we do that, let's just take a quick look at all of the characters and their instruments. Just as a reminder, we're not going to listen to all of their music today because you've heard them a lot of times, and we have lots of stuff to get to today. But I just wanted to remind you, so we have our first one here, Peter, who's represented by the violin. We have the bird, which is represented by the flute. We have the cat and the clarinet. And we have the duck and the oboe. Those are the four you should be really, really comfortable with by now because we've been talking about them for several weeks. Now I know just last week we introduced the bassoon and the grandfather. I do have cards for them as well. So we have the bassoon and the grandfather. You guys remember what the bassoon looks like. It's that long, long woodwind instrument that is kind of like an elbow with the double reed, but it has the bent neck piece there, right? So we are going to listen to the grandfather's theme one more time, just to kind of get it stuck in your head and get that bassoon sound back in your memory. And then we're going to move on to our last two characters. So let's listen to the grandfather really quickly, and then we'll move on. You guys remember that grumpy old man walking around? Last week, you guys had to hobble around and pretend to be a grumpy old man, right? With that big, deep sound of the bassoon to represent that. Okay, so we're gonna listen to a completely different sound now. This is the wolf instrument. I have a card for the wolf. And the wolf is represented by a really cool brass instrument called the French horn. It's a really unique instrument, a really unique sound, and it's played in a really cool way. So let's listen first to the wolf's theme and see what you can kind of picture in your mind. I want you to imagine a wolf and listen to the music and see kind of what the wolf does inside your brain while you're listening. Okay, we'll be right back. Now, I don't know what you pictured in your head, but I know that when I listen to the wolf's theme, I can kind of picture a wolf like being kind of creepy and prowling around and maybe looking for some midnight snack to eat, right? It sounds a little bit creepy. It's a kind of an eerie sound, but I think it really represents that wolf really well. If you think about how a wolf moves around, how it stalks its prey, while it's out there hunting at night, right? So we're going to listen to it again, and this time I want you to become the wolf, and I want you to move around the room creepily like you're a wolf hunting. Man, I'm kind of glad I'm not in the room with you because I'm sure you guys were some scary wolves while you were walking around the room listening to that music. All right, it is time for us to learn about the French horn. So, without further ado, let's learn all about this really cool instrument.
Hello, my name's Katie and I'm one of the two principal horns of the Philharmonia Orchestra. So I'm going to talk to you about the French horn. It's in the brass group of orchestral instruments. It sits on the right-hand side, slightly away, because we're slightly special. We're slightly special for a couple of reasons. I mean, fundamentally it's the same because you make that bit of weird buzzing sound with your lips. We vibrate our lips to create the sound. That vibration then hits the mouthpiece and then travels through the horn like that. So it goes from an ugly sound to... Now, the horn is quite special in that, firstly, it's played with the left hand, so the right hand. That is because a while back, before the valves were invented a couple of hundred years ago, we used to change the note with our hand. So like this. That doesn't really give you an even tone, so they added some valves so we can get all the notes without having that fuzzy sound. Another difference is that it's conical, so it starts smaller here and winds round and eventually gradually gets bigger until you get to the bell. So that's why it's slightly different to other brass instruments. It's great fun to play. One of the things I love most about the French horn is the variety you get. So in an orchestral situation you can play some beautiful, beautiful quiet tunes, kind of creeping melodies, very haunting, very romantic, but also you can get some really exciting moments when the horns come blasting in, you get a bells up bit and it just creates that little bit of extra added excitement. Before valves were invented, you couldn't play chromatically. You could just play the harmonic series, which the horn and any brass instrument is based on, or you could play with your hand slightly, getting a couple of notes in between. But now we have the valves, we can play chromatically from the very bottom to the very top of our register. One of the problems with the French horn is its awkward shape. So when we want to carry it around, the bell gets in the way, so you're carrying it each side and you whack your leg and bruise your shin, that kind of thing. People have created an excellent solution to this by having detachable bells. It comes off, so you pack it away, it goes neatly like that, and it's a nice little box. The role of the French horn player has changed over the years quite a lot. When we used to only be able to play the harmonic series, we just used to be the kind of filling in the middle or the tonic and dominant. That kind of thing, rather boring, in between notes. Then gradually as we got to be, well, firstly better with our right hand, and as our valves came up we got the tunes and the kind of melodic, beautiful side of the horn started to shine through. Gustav Mahler was one of the best horn writers in his time, and actually maybe of all horn writing ever. He had some beautiful loud tunes, but also some beautiful quiet ones, and this is one of the more melodic, pretty ones. So in the same symphony, Mahler also wrote some rather loud bits of the horn, and this is a tutti, so there's quite a lot of us playing it. So imagine this times about 1 million. To produce a clear start to the note, we quite often tongue them. So we use our tongue behind our teeth, or sometimes through our teeth, depending on how long your tongue is, and you just kind of give it a bit of a kickstart. So you can do quite sharp tonguing, like that, which isn't very attractive, so we generally tone it down a bit. Some people don't use the tongue at all and produce a note just by vibrating their lips. which gives you a softer articulation.
Isn't that a cool one? I really like the shape of that instrument, the sound that it makes, and the way it's played. I don't know, I think it's a really neat one. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And now that you are French horn experts, we are going to pretend to play our French horns while we listen to the Wolf's theme one more time. All right, we are ready to learn about our final character in Peter and the Wolf. And this is actually more than one character. They are the hunters. We've got the hunters right there. And they are represented by a percussion instrument called the timpani. And we're going to learn all about the timpani. It's a very unique kind of drum that is played differently than most other drums. But first, we are going to listen to the hunter's theme. And just like what we did with the wolf, I want you to kind of close your eyes and picture what you think is happening with these hunters while their music plays. So their theme is very different from all the others, isn't it? It's sharp and it's loud, and it's definitely a percussive kind of sound, right? Because it's played on a type of drum. And I don't know about you, but whenever I listen to that, it makes me feel like maybe the composer was imagining that those were the sounds of the hunter's guns going off. I don't know. What do you think? We're going to listen to it one more time. And this time I want you to pretend that you are in the hunting party. And we're not going to move around the room this time, but I want you to pretend while you're at your desks that you're a hunter and you're scanning the room for your prey and you're watching for any animals that might be lurking while you're out hunting. Okay, great job. Now let's learn all about the instrument that makes that really cool sound, the timpani.
Hi, my name's Andy Smith. I'm going to give you a short tour of the timpani of the orchestra. The modern timpani bridges a gap between the double bass section and the percussion section, in that modern timpani are written to be partly a bass instrument and partly a percussion instrument. So that as well as playing a little bit of Beethoven 5, the opening of the last movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which is just a rhythm on two drums. But then you get exciting things that are written for two drums, which have a completely different meaning. For example, in the Sunrise section of Strauss's Also sprach Zarathustra, the timpanist, it goes bam, 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 ba-bam, and then everybody's waiting, and the timpanist goes really has a chance to show off, and that makes the difference to the whole opening of the piece. The instrument isn't just playing tonic and dominant for the sake of playing tonic and dominant. It becomes part of the orchestra texture. You might want to ask how timpani work. Well, centuries ago, the instrument didn't have all this framework that you can see down here, all this here, that wasn't there. It was just a bowl with a piece of skin, usually calf skin or goat skin, stretched across. And when you tightened it up, it made a higher noise, and when you loosened it, it made a lower noise. And the timpanist in those days, to tune them, would have to turn all the keys to get the instrument even so it rang nice and to get a nice pure note. If all these keys were not in tune with each other, then you would get a note that would wobble and wouldn't sound very nice. But this sounds really clean. Bum. There's no doubt as to what note I'm playing. The way the instrument tunes is a little bit like an umbrella, in that when you open and close an umbrella, just pushing one central pivot opens and closes the umbrella. In the same way, although it works in an opposite sort of way because of the tension on the bowl, the instrument actually gets tighter as you push the umbrella up and looser as you let the umbrella down. Modern composers like, well, I call them modern composers, but I mean Stravinsky, Janacek and Bartók, people who realized the potential of this type of tuning system, wrote an awful lot for it, even for the timpani playing tunes. So that's how it comes. So you can go So you can actually play tunes and notes by tuning the instruments. Whatever sound you make on the timpani, it will be individual because no two timpanists play in the same way. And no two timpanists hit the instruments in the same way. But whatever it is you do, you will alter the tutti sound of the whole orchestra. And that is really crucial. And therefore, you know, I have people come to concerts who come and say, "Oh, the drums were great in that." And I say, "Well, what about the rest of the orchestra?" "Oh, they were great too, but you did something that elevated it to a different level." And that's the art of playing the timpani. Now, I'm going to take one pair of sticks and show you how you can make a variety of sounds with just one type of stick. If you play near the edge, you get a thin but very clear sound. But you don't get a lot of tone. You get the pitch, but not a lot of tone. If you move further into the skin towards the middle, in what I call the normal playing area, you get proper sound. If I go towards the middle, then you get this. All with the same stick. Now also, if you hit the drum in a certain way and let it ring, get a nice round sound. But then if I use my other hand, I can cut the sound short by going, and you get a totally different sound. And so the variation of sound that you can get from just one pair of sticks is enormous, absolutely enormous. And it's really important to realize that when you play the timpani, you're actually playing as much with your hands as you are with the sticks.
I hope you liked that one as well. I imagine that timpani players really have to do a lot of work with tuning their instruments to the right note, moving all around, make sure they're hitting the right timpani at the right time. They can play in so many different parts of the instrument as well to make different sounds, but it's a really cool one. So right now we are going to listen to the Hunter's theme again, and I want you to play your imaginary timpanis. If you would like to, you can pretend that your desk is your timpani and you can hit it with your hands, or you could just play in the air in front of you. All right, let's do it. So that's it. That's all of the instruments and all of the characters in Peter and the Wolf. So now you know a little bit about 7 different instruments, about how they sound, about how they're played, about how they work. And I hope that that gives you a nice groundwork for when you're maybe a little bit older and you might want to consider learning how to play an instrument. It gives you somewhere to start. Now, next week, we are going to actually continue learning about Peter and the Wolf. We're going to put it together because it's not just a bunch of random instruments. It is actually a story. So we're going to find out what that story is and continue learning through music. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye!